So, welcome to the Business Growth Connector podcast. This show is all about helping you to grow your business, all about helping you to be competitive in the market. We sometimes also talk about funding, accelerators, and a whole lot more. But today, there's a special guest here. Yeah, so she's going to tell us a lot of a different thing altogether because the podcast we have funding, we have organizational leadership, and a whole lot. But this one is very different. Yeah. So we have Cathy Fyock.
Fyock. Yes.
Fyock, yeah, Cathy Fyock on the show. So Cathy, welcome to the Business Growth Connector podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, it's like it has been on and off. It's like rescheduling, those kind of things. But today, I am very happy to have you here. So, can you tell us more about yourself? Yeah, we want to know more about you, where you are speaking from, what you do.
Very good. Yeah, I'm happy to share. I've had a very interesting career. I've made many changes and turns in my career. Before I was a book coach, I was a human resources consultant, speaker, author. And I found that writing books was one of the best strategies for advancing my business, for becoming known as a thought leader, of establishing my expertise in the world. So, about, over 11 years ago now, I was approached by my chapter of the National Speakers Association. And they said, Cathy, we heard a rumor that you wrote one of your books in less than 6 weeks. Is that right? And I said, well, yes, I've written 4 of my 5 books at the time in less than 6 weeks. And they said, oh my gosh, how did you do that? Do you have a process? And I said, yeah, I do have a process. And so the president asked me if I would be willing to share my process with the chapter. And I said, oh, yeah, I'd love to give a program. And he said, but before you say yes to giving a program, would you be willing to coach 2 of our chapter members on your process and then give a report? So that's exactly what I did. And as I started coaching these 2 women, they said, have you ever thought about becoming a book coach? And I said, no. Is there such a thing? Is there a need? And they assured me that there were a lot of people who wanted to write books, but they didn't know how to get started, or they didn't know how to write the book that would help them grow
Yeah.
their business. So that was the first idea. And once I got that idea, it was just a few months later that I launched my new business as a book coach.
Okay, nice. It's like it has reflected me to my own because I am an author. I have like 12 books now. So I created a Google business profile and posted some of my books on it. So sometimes I will get people telling me, oh, do you market books? Do you print books? Meanwhile, I'm not doing the printing. I'm not doing nothing. So it's continuous for like 4 or 5 times. So when it happens like that, then I recommend it to my publisher. Then another set came. Then I said, okay, this thing, I'm going to turn it into a business by all means. So now I do help people to market their books. I help life coaches also. So I'm glad to have my own in front of me.
Yes.
Yeah. So why is writing or publishing books a powerful tool for business owners or entrepreneurs?
That's a great question, because a lot of people think, why write a book? But I have found in my experience, especially as a consultant, as a speaker, as a coach, there is no better business card than having a book. It opens doors, it establishes credibility, it gives you better name recognition, it expands your brand. There are so many benefits to having authored a book. And what I'm finding for many of the authors that I'm working with, they they want to be a speaker, and they know that having a book will get them speaking engagements. They know that they want to start a new business or go in a slightly new direction. And by having a book as the foundation for their business, it's an amazing way to launch that new career, that new direction. In fact, when I shifted from being a human resources professional to being a book coach, how did I do that? I wrote a book about how to write a book. And that was the way I launched my new business as a book coach. So it can establish your credentials like really nothing else can.
Okay, that's great. So when we write a books, we can expand our business, right? In a way.
Yes, there's something really powerful when you go through the information that you know, and you codify it and structure it and package it all up. You have become just the process of creating that book. You have developed more confidence. You have developed a new level of thought leadership. And it's amazing what that will do for your confidence, but also in terms of projecting your image as an expert and as a thought leader.
Okay, that's great. So, are there any specific ways a book can position a business owner as an authority figure in any industry they perform or any industry their business are in?
So, yes, I think that having that book as a credential creates your authority. In fact, you think about the word authority. Being an authority means being an author. And so, having written the book on your expertise is such an important element. And yet, what I find is that many individuals find writing a book is very daunting. It's very scary. It's putting yourself out there. It's establishing in print forever what you believe to be true. And so it can be a little bit. I don't know, you're creating some vulnerability there. You're exposing sort of what you know and what you don't know when you write your book. But it is a powerful tool for those who are brave enough to write their books.
Now that a book is a powerful tool to help them, so how can an entrepreneur who wants to write a book to maybe market their service, being an authority in the industry, know that this is the area or this is the type of book idea I have to write?
Yes,
How would they know?
what I generally do is when I'm talking with a client, a prospective client, about their book idea, I ask them this question: what is the work that you would like to do more of? And that's the book you want to write. I know I was working with one woman, and she had had a really strong career as a PR director professional. And she said, I could write the book about PR, so easy, so simple, but really the work that I'm called to do is innovation storytelling. She said that book is going to be much harder. And I said, that's the book though that you want to write, because I do believe that books are magical. They will lead your career to the direction in which you write. So be careful of what you write, because it will take you in that new career direction.
Okay, that's great. So I want this episode to be practical. So can you give us maybe a scenario? Maybe we can pick an example, an entrepreneur wants to maybe with the HR thing and take us through maybe the processes we need, even with the mindset and everything.
That's a great question. So, the first thing is to begin with the end in mind. What is your purpose for writing this book? And to be very clear about what your intended purpose is, beyond just, sharing with the world what I know. Do you want it to open doors? Do you want it to be the curriculum for the coaching or training or the work that you do, the speaking that you do, how do you want it to integrate into your business? So being very clear about that, because if you want to use it as curriculum for, say, training that you may do with clients, then you'll want to build in exercises and you'll want to build in that curriculum and think about, how would I deliver this information and have the book provide a similar structure? So that's the first issue, being very clear on what your goals are for the book and how it's going to serve your business. The second thing is to think about your thesis statement. What is your book about? And it's not just this big, broad topic, it's something very specific. So, for example, my first book was on the aging workforce. That's very broad. That's a topic. That's not a thesis. My thesis for my first book was how employers could find the gold in the graying of America. That was the real thesis statement, and strategies for recruiting, training, managing, and retaining older workers. So it's being very clear, not just about the topic, but about your take on the topic. The third strategic element is really understanding your target reader. Who is the ideal reader for your book? And some folks might say, oh, yeah, well, my book will help anyone. Well, it might help most everyone, but the more specific you can be, the more it's linked to your key client or prospect, the better it will serve your business. So those are the very first things that I get really clear in the mind of my author. The second thing is to think about the structure of the book. And I think before you just start writing, I heard somebody tell somebody once, well, if you want to write a book, just start writing about it. About your topic. It's like, no, don't do that. It could be very, all over the place and crazy. It's not going to be organized and planned. So what I suggest you do is do a detailed outline of your topic. What do you want to cover? What are the specific topics? What are those chapters? How is it going to be structured in terms of those chapters? And then what are the stories that you're going to tell for each chapter? What are the exercises that you may have the reader do? What are the data points that you may want to add? So I suggest using Post-its. I love sticky notes for creating one key idea per sticky note. And you can put these on the wall or on a board and organize them, because you may think, oh, I have a great story to tell about some aspect, but maybe it goes in one chapter or the other chapter. This allows you that flexibility to move it around until you have the entire book outlined, and then you can start writing. And by the way, I think then you can start writing not necessarily at chapter 1 or the introduction. That's the hardest to write. So start in the middle. You have the whole book outlined. So start where you have the energy, start where you have a clear vision, and create momentum as you go.
Okay, that's nice. I'll say a special testimony. One thing a book has taught me, like writing a book has taught me, is problem solving. I think it gives you a deep dive on how to solve problem, because you don't just pick the topic, you dive deep on it and then write it. Yeah, so I think if you're an entrepreneur and you want to have authority in your industry, I think a book is the best thing to do great things with it.
Yes, I'm a huge believer, and that's why I love so much what I do, Bridget. It is so much fun to work with thought leaders who are writing their books. They generally have a passion for their topic. They have a real interest in making the world a better place, and I think that authors do make the world a better place, one word at a time. Every time we tell a story, every time we share our experiences, we bring others the gifts of hope, wisdom, joy. And that is an amazing thing to be able to do.
Okay, that's great. With your scenario as a speaker, I still want us to do some examples. So let's say someone wants to write a book, is a public speaker and wants to write a book to share the knowledge about what is going on or how people have to maybe control their breath when speaking or all those kind of stuff. So, what
Mhm.
are some of the elements the person has to put inside the book to make it unique?
That's a great question. Sometimes I think we write a book as the author thinking, let's see, what do I know about this topic and what do I want to share? I don't think that's the best way to start. I think the best way to start is by thinking, what does the reader, my ideal reader, what problems are they facing? What are the issues that they are experiencing? What are the questions that they are asking? You start with the questions and the pain points of your reader and you respond to those. So instead of then coming from this place of ego, of let me just share with you what I know, it's let me help you solve your problem. And that's a different perspective. And that's much, much more effective as an author to come to it's approaching in a place of service as opposed to ego. And your book will be far better received and will be far more helpful when you start by thinking of what are the questions my reader has about my topic. And by the way, you can get those by listening to your clients. What are they asking you? So what questions do they typically ask? And if you don't have something written in writing for as an answer to that question, then that can give you an idea of what your next bit of writing might be. I'm also a big believer, by the way, in blog posts and creating a book from a blog. So you can have um, little posts or little chunks of content, piecing those together to form a book in response to the questions your readers have, your clients have.
Okay, that's great. And one thing about this with businesses or individuals writing books for their business sake. Maybe someone wants to write a bit like they are into sales, they help people market their any product of theirs. And they want to write a book, but they don't want it to be like salesy, like they are recommending their product. So how can they, I'll say, recommend without being salesy in the book?
Yes. Well, it's really a great question, and that many authors, when I'm reading their manuscript, they'll say you should do this and you should do that, and maybe the reader should do those things, but it comes across as very preachy, and so what I recommend very strongly to my authors is that they tell stories. Stories are a wonderful vehicle. They tell the truth about the subject. They tell what you should do without pointing a finger at your reader and shaking your finger at that reader. So a story contains the action that was taken, the context, the action, and then the result. So if you're telling a complete story, you are sharing with your reader what they should do without directly telling them. So it's the difference, and many of us have heard this. We should show, not tell. And the way we show is to tell a story. We when we share that story, and especially when we use dialogue, we take the reader there, then they are in the middle of the story. They can identify with that story. The other benefit of telling stories is that they're very sticky. We remember stories. Unlike anything else, I can remember times when there was one time I went to a conference, and I had spoken at the conference several years before. And of course, I always tell stories. And someone came up to me and they said, "You're the one that told the story about," and they went on to tell me my story. And I thought that was so interesting. It was years later, but they remembered the story. And that's the power of story. We remember story. Our brain doesn't remember the three things that we should do to be a better listener, or the three things we should do to be a better leader, or whatever our content is about. But we'll remember the story that that individual told. And that is powerful.
We do remember story a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it wasn't a business book, but some of the readers do come to me, and it's like maybe 3 steps to do something inside the book. Like everyone knows that step, but when it comes to storytelling, someone might have 4 lessons out of your book, another might have 10, depending on how it is related to their life or something like that. So I say story is the key. So apart from story, can they add something like case study?
Yeah, what's interesting, Bridget, is that so many of my clients, when the way we work together is they'll write a chunk of writing and they'll turn it into me, and I'll review it at a high level. And my number one piece of feedback is usually it needs another story, or how about a story to explain what this is all about. And some of my clients have said to me, I know what you're going to say. It needs a story. And I said, yes, it does. Because without the story, it is not convincing. It is not sticky. I like that word, sticky. It doesn't stay with us. And yet, so tell more stories is probably the one big piece of advice. In fact, I'm working with some folks right now. They're just writing a chapter in an anthology. And what I'm telling people is within your chapter, you might think about 3 key points and think about at least one story for each of those key points. And that will make a far more interesting chapter than just having 3 key points.
Yeah, that's great. And at your background, the background is very nice. The covers are nice. When it comes to book covers, sometimes I do see some book covers. When I see, I say, what's this? Some of them too is very attractive from A to Z. So even when you touch it, you know what you are going to gain from the book. So what can you tell us about book covers? Yeah.
That's a great question. I like to have my authors think about their brand, their overall brand, because my authors are pretty much coming to me to grow their business, and that is their number one strategy. So your book look, the look of your book should reflect your brand, and it should be very cohesive and congruent with your brand colors. For example, you might guess that my key brand color is red. I love red. And if you look at my books, and I have some on the shelf back here, almost,
Talking about
well, all of my books are
speak
red
the
and black
speaker
and
something.
gray and white. Yes. So it's having those key colors so that it looks cohesive. It looks like it's all part of the same brand, and
Yeah.
you become identifiable. I think too, you're right that your book cover should hint at what's involved. So, for example, Writer Crisis Hotline, as you
Yeah.
might guess, we have a little old-fashioned telephone in
Yeah.
red, which is kind of fun. In my book, The Speaker Author, because we have like the speaker, the microphone, and then uh, the pen, the quill pen.
Movement.
Give your readers a sense of what they're going to find inside. And the other thing I'll say too is the title that you use for your book should be congruent with your messaging. So that I tell people the most powerful thing you can do to promote your book and get your message out there is to speak about your book. And you should, if you possibly can, use the same title for your presentation as you do for your book. And if you do that, if say you're selling books after the presentation, you're going to be more likely to sell more books when it's the same title as the presentation that they just heard.
Okay, that's nice. I've heard someone tell me, Regis, I love to write, but when it comes to marketing, I just hate it. So what do you tell us about book marketing? The other time I told a friend that, see, if you can market a book, you can do any type of business. That's what I told.
Well, exactly. I think marketing a book is like marketing any other product, any other business. It is thinking about the marketing assets. So think about if you're writing a book to grow your business, then you already have some marketing assets. You probably have a website. You have collateral, you have business cards, you have materials. So think about having a cohesive brand look so that all of your materials look like they go together. Just recently, I exhibited at the Florida Sunshine State Book Festival. And what I loved about my display is you could tell all of those books were mine because they had the same color theme. There was the same motif running through all of the materials.
Yeah. So can you give us some strategy? Let's say, well, there's still the speaker kind of book thing because you are a speaker plus a coach. So I'll use that example. So you're a speaker, you have written the book. Now, how do you market it? We need some tips for us to market the books.
Well, this is a great point. I think that having the same title is one thing. What you can do is hold the book and read from the book. I often read from this book when I'm talking about marketing your book because it has some great ideas. So I'll say, if you'll open your book, or if you were to open your book to page whatever, and then I will actually read some of the sections here. How to sell books when you speak is on page 76. And I'll say, mention the name of your book throughout your presentation. Offer a handout, postcard, a bookmark as a takeaway. Read from your book and hold your book so that people can see it. And then if you are offering your books at the end for sale, you might have your introducer. I like to have the introducer say, oh, and Cathy is selling her books at the back of the room. So be sure and stop by and pick up one of her books before you leave her session today. So those are just some easy things. The other super easy thing that I would suggest is you have some wonderful marketing space on your email signature. So with your email signature, with every email you send, why not put your latest book there? Author of the book, or if you haven't written it yet, author of the forthcoming book. Ask me about my new book, and then you could have a picture of the book. So I think doing those, sometimes it's just the little things that we do. If it's not necessarily having a huge campaign budget or marketing budget, sometimes it's just the little things we do as authors that are so effective.
Yeah, I think with the email signature, I'm going to add one to my related to the business. I'm going to add one to my email thing. And with the holding of the book, I did last year or two. I watched a video. It's Ivan Carmichael. Like he's a YouTuber, a businessman, entrepreneur. Yeah. So he did a video, like he showed a video that someone was showing that, oh, if you buy this purpose book, like he didn't say that, he just this book, but I know he was holding it, this book, and he advised that instead of saying this book, you mentioned the book's name because someone might just scrolling, but when he or she hears the name, the person will feel like, oh, then let me go and give it a try or something like that. Yeah.
The other thing I would say is if you're speaking for a group, be sure to get the contact information for all of the attendees. And one of the ways you can do that is say, for everybody, if you'll fill out a card or turn in a business card, you'll have a chance to win my new book. and then you can hold it up again, and then when you pull the name out of the hat, and then you say, "Oh my gosh, this person was the winner, and so come up and get your book." And then people go, "Oh man, I wanted to get a book." So they're more tempted to buy your book at the end of the program or online afterward.
So thank you for this tips. It's really out there is worth gold. I didn't even like suspected that this might be, maybe I'll try one or two. So there's something that people often ask, okay, I want to write a book. But people
Yeah.
are saying traditional publishers. Which one should I take, traditional or self publishers? Because someone will get a book deal $5,000 and more. With the self publishers, like you are fighting with yourself, the world, everything. So what do you say about these two types? And I even heard there is another one, hybrid. So what are you telling us on this point?
I'm a big believer in hybrid publishing. Many of my authors go the direction of hybrid. A few will do self publishing, do it on their own, but many of them are busy professionals. They have businesses to run. And I suggest you don't need to go into the world of publishing unless you have an interest in that. And traditional publishing, I'm not a big fan of. My first 5 books were traditionally published, so I have experience there. And I occasionally got some good advances, so that was great. But I think some people think that if you sign on with a publisher, they are going to market your book for you. And that is not true. They will do some things to get it out there in the world, but really book sales are all about what the author is willing to do. So I believe that your best interests are served when you pay the money, you own your intellectual property, you own your copyright, you're not assigning that to someone else, and you own your book. You can then buy it at cost and you get the markup when you sell it to groups or you pre-sell it to for speaking engagements or whatever. So I'm a big believer in the power of hybrid publishing.
That's great. And we need this advice from you also. If an entrepreneur is not a confident writer, what advice will you give him or her to write a book, or to come out that, yeah, I have to write a book and publish it and sell it?
You know, a lot of people come to me and they say, I really want to write a book, but I don't know, does anybody want to read my story? Does anybody really care? And here's what I believe. I believe that we are put on this earth to share our story with others. And I think it's really important that we share our stories with others. I think that that is part of what we're called to do. Our purpose in life is to share our experiences and to help others, to be in service to others. And I think that writing a book can be a wonderful way to do that. Um, I'm a big believer in the power of a book, the power of your story, and you are enough and you have something to say. I encourage people, write your book. You do have something to say.
Okay, so thank you for coming, and we love what you are doing. But before you go, we'd love you to share maybe some rules that you think that successful business publishing is this one, so follow it. Do you have any rules like that, systems, schools like that?
So I think that we as authors have a responsibility to share our stories, to get it out there, and to become evangelists for our message. So to get it out there, to be marketing, and to promote our books in building our businesses and serving others.
Okay, that's great. So, in case one of my listeners says, "Oh, Cathy, I want to write a book. How can I find you? How can I follow you on social? Where are they going exactly? Like, how can they find you?"
Great question. Go to my website at cathyfyock.com, or you can send me an email, Cathy at cathyfyock.com. And I love just schedule strategy sessions. It's a complimentary 30 minutes strategy session to talk with you about your book idea and to see how we might work together.
Okay, that's great. But the last thing is, we ask let's say guests that what is the last advice or the last word you would have to give to our listeners here if they want to publish books on their business, regarding their business?
What's my one piece of advice? Do it. Be brave. It's scary. It's daunting. Let me also say it's hard work. Some people think because I'm a book coach and I have 12 books that I've authored that I like to write. I don't really like to write. I think it's hard work, but it's hard work
Yeah.
that will pay off, that has a dividend. So if you want to grow your business, I think writing a book is probably the best strategy for getting your thought leadership out into the world.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us. I love everything that you said here, all the tips, all the and engaging with the practical things with me. I love it. But I wish that maybe in the future or in months to come, you also come and help us to be good public speakers as entrepreneurs. So I'm hoping to invite you
Okay,
on that. Yeah.
sure. I'm happy to chat with you about that as well.
Okay. So, listeners, I know you have learned a lot from Cathy, and I have also learned a lot because I'm going to instill some of the tips she has shared right now, especially with the email signature thing. So, and I know you are learning a lot, and I know your business has to get authority when it comes to books. So, I know you are going to do it, but I want you to think that you have a story to tell. So don't let the story be kept inside of you. Tell the story, and Kathy can help you. So I
Yes.
know you love everything here. So see you in another episode and continue to listen to the Business Growth Connector podcast.